Ceux qui ne l'ont pas fait, à redistribuer leurs droits de tirage spéciaux du FMI. D'ores et déjà, on a pu mobiliser 110 milliards de dollars qui permettent de lancer
Please take your seats. The program is about to begin. Please welcome to the stage Dubai-born poet and artist Shama Faisal Al-Basteki.
Lift your palm against a palm leaf, let it lie, mirroring. Line upon line, vein upon vein, wrist to stem, stem to wrist, green to green and bluing. Elevations, embossed contours, traceable mountainscapes and seascapes encased in fingertips, a chiastic mapping, geographicating, alive. Potential to policy action is the only way we know. 2, lift your arm against a branch. Let it bend in the wind too. Shadowing the shamal, following its flow, xylem to zugma flow, floem to poem flow, vein to verse, vein to vellum flow, soil to simile. Sap to saga, to spondi, to symbol flow, synthesize the sun in unison now. Go. 3, lean your back against the bark. The carpenter ants line up, information perpendicular to your jugular, playing the planet's story back at you. Lungs, wheezing in cognizance of their death, heart pounding into the hollow, harboring the echo, eggs of something nearly hatching, I hope, of the reminder that impossible dodges our lexicon. You lean against the bark. 4, step along the roots. Wobble, if you wish, for a moment. then stand. The way this palm tree has nurtured a legacy, has birthed the air you breathe, has protected you, has mirrored you, has been you, is you. Hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, you are atomkin, sentient stardust, inextricable. All the oryxes and oxymorons from Liwa to Masafi, and so the palm tree and the pine tree intertwine. The ghaf and the alder alter the process. The mangrove and the sycamore synchronize. The oak and the cedar glow. تحت البدر, let us be brave enough, bold enough to craft an alternative story, to have faith in this moment, to propel us forward and heartward and skyward toward one North Star and a half. Hand to leaf, arm to branch, back to bark, foot to root, rooting us into knowing a new tomorrow, and that today is already history. Thank you.
More than half the people on our planet live in cities.
Cities are gathering places for a diversity of people.
Cities are the engine of growth.
Cities get things done.
But also, cities are responsible for more than 70% of the world's carbon emissions.
That situation needs to change.
What makes this summit, this COP, different is that mayors have a seat at the table.
The actions of cities are critical to mitigating the effects of climate change.
We can make a big impact on the fight against climate change by taking local action. Actions like
reducing emissions,
managing waste,
attracting climate finance,
creating more green spaces,
transitioning to clean transportation,
creating green jobs,
increasing resilience in our community.
We need to always remember, local steps lead to global impact.
Meu estado.
Moje miasto.
My city.
My city is a big part of the solution.
We need to stand together as mayors.
Come on, mayors, let's stand up together.
Let's all stand up. Come on. Here at the local Climate Action Summit at COP28.
Please stand up.
Stand up.
Stad voor stad.
Ciudad por ciudad, de pie.
We're in this together.
Simbora, gente.
So let's do it.
Let's do this together.
Stand up!
Stand up for our vision of a cleaner, greener, more prosperous future for our communities and our children.
The next generation's future will depend on the choices we make today. Acting locally at home, we can be bolder and move faster in tackling climate change.
Please welcome to the stage Michael R. Bloomberg, UN Special Envoy on Climate Ambition and Solutions, founder of Bloomberg Philanthropies and Bloomberg LP, and the 108th Mayor of New York City.
Thank you, everyone. Let me thank Shama for her beautiful words and great delivery, and to open this summit with a spirit of creativity and common purpose. What about another round of applause for her? I also want to thank the city, state, and regional leaders joining us from all around the world who are showing what's possible when that spirit guides our work. And let me give a special thanks to Secretary General Guterres and the COP President, Dr. Sultan, for helping to make this COP an historic moment in the global fight against climate change. To understand why it is historic and why it can be a turning point in our work to build a brighter future, let's take a moment to look back at the past. When the United Nations started holding climate talks back in 1992, and for many years afterwards, the conventional thinking was that climate change was a challenge that only national governments could solve, and that solving it would require economic sacrifice. But city and state and regional leaders looked at the problem differently. They have a long understanding that the same steps that cut emissions and grow the economy and improve public health and expand opportunity and create new jobs is what this is all about. And while national governments struggled to find consensus, local leaders charged ahead together. They began sharing strategies for battling climate change, and the ideas spread from city to city, state to state, and region to region. Our foundation has been glad to help facilitate that progress, including the global groups that we help to lead, such as C40 and the Global Covenant of Mayors, and through the coalition called America is All In, which helped keep the U.S. moving forward even through the years of inaction at the federal level. We've provided support and assistance and challenged local leaders to continue to raise the bar. And 8 years ago at COP28 in Paris, local leaders from around the world came together and said, look at how much we've accomplished. Follow our lead, aim higher, and empower us more. And that message helped encourage national governments to create an ambitious agreement. Since then, cities, states, regions, and businesses have only accelerated their progress. And thanks to the Secretary General and the COP President, this is the first COP where local leaders have a formal summit and are integrated into the program. It is a critical step forward, and I want to, yes it is, you can applaud that. And I want to again thank Dr. Sultan and Secretary General Guterres for their strong support of local leadership. The more that national governments support and empower local leaders, the faster that we can make progress. Cities, states, and regions are standing up and standing together. They're not only helping us to win the battle against climate change, it's also saving and improving people's lives every single day. So to all the leaders taking part in this historic summit, thank you all for the incredible work that you've been doing. This summit is a chance to speed up the progress, and to kick it off, let me turn it over to the COP President and again thank him for his support. Please welcome Dr. Sultan.
Please welcome to the stage His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, COP28 President and UAE Special Envoy for Climate Change.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, welcome to the United Arab Emirates, to Dubai, and to COP28. Allow me to start first by saying how pleased I am to be surrounded with so many friends, colleagues, and familiar faces, people that I've either worked with or interacted with over the years. It gives me a lot of comfort and confidence to know that I have this kind of friends that will come and support our real, true, genuine, and sincere commitment in helping address the global climate challenge. Allow me also to begin by thanking my very dear friend, Mike Bloomberg, and the Bloomberg Philanthropies for co-hosting today's summit. I thank you, sir, from the bottom of my heart for your passion, your dedication, and your commitment. Mike is not only a great humanitarian or a great friend of the planet, he has also been a true and a real friend to me. And I've experienced that in many occasions and in many incidents. I thank you again for being there, sir. Let me also thank everyone here in this room and those who were not able to make it. The mayors, the governors, the subnational leaders who have traveled from all over the world for this first summit of local leaders ever held at a COP. I believe this summit can and will provide an excellent opportunity to showcase climate action at the local level and take great ideas to be scaled up. And today I am pleased to launch one of those ideas in partnership with Mike Bloomberg. The Coalition for High Ambition Multi-Level Partnerships for Climate Action, or CHAMP. CHAMP is designed to better align and connect climate responses at local, regional, and national level. This initiative recognizes that when climate disasters strike, it is local leaders who have to respond to it first. And it is designed to make sure that local leaders have the right resources and they're equipped enough to cater for reinforcing climate resilience. And I'm delighted that 62 countries have already signed up, and I continue to encourage others to join this very important partnership. Friends and colleagues, it is going to take a fully inclusive approach to keep our North Star of 1.5 within reach. And if we're serious about truly, genuinely, and sincerely interested in addressing the growing climate impacts, there's no other way around it but to adopt a comprehensive, holistic, progressive, pragmatic, inclusive approach. And I know I keep repeating inclusive. And I know I've repeated myself a number of times, and I've been told once that I sound like a broken record when it comes to being inclusive. But let's just come to terms with some realities here. This is not the first COP. And this is not the first time where the world gathers to help address a global challenge. But you can't come to address a global challenge by applying differences or by allowing differences to get in the middle and detour you from the real reason of why you're all here. And that's why, since the beginning of this journey in the preparations of COP28, we've been very clear, in fact, crystal clear, on the fact that we will do it by underpinning everything with full inclusivity, and I hope that we have been able to demonstrate that to everyone. I know, and I've seen and I've experienced local leaders representing many cities, counties, and districts around the world really step up. And I've seen them up their game in their efforts in helping address such challenges. More than 1,000 cities have joined the race to zero. Their commitments alone could reduce global emissions by at least 1.5 gigatons annually by 2030. Yes, it is a local action, but I promise you, it has a big global impact. And that is exactly what the world needs. Every step must count, and every step must resonate globally. Our objectives must be big, and we must start thinking big. And that is what we aim to achieve at COP28. Big results. Results that are meaningful, that are practical, and that will help restore faith and trust in the process, and that will deliver the good news that the world desperately needs today. And I am counting on everyone to help the COP28 presidency and the Secretariat and all relevant stakeholders to deliver against this noble cause of our interest in delivering the good news to the world. I really hope that you take advantage of this summit at COP28, and I really hope that you will do the maximum you can to help us all raise ambition as our outcomes coming out of COP28. Please don't hesitate to share your experiences with your counterparts from all over the world. Because the best hope we have of making change globally is to keep taking action locally and daily. Don't try to delay any action. And please, enough of small steps. We need giant leaps. I aim to deliver the most ambitious response to the global stocktake. Please do what you can. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations.
Excellencies and dear friends, we meet on the brink of climate chaos. Emissions are still rocketing. Climate impacts are still widening. And we are about to conclude the hottest year on record. Year by year, the world's commitment to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius is slipping away. And we are speeding towards a 3-degree temperature rise and showing yet no signs of slowing down. At the same time, developing countries are left without the support they need to adapt to the carnage around them and make the leap to a renewable future. Now, at COP28, the world must hit the brakes. And this must be a game-changing COP, thinking big, as the President just said. Now, keeping 1.5 degrees within reach means breaking our addiction to fossil fuels, making a fair, just and equitable shift to renewables, and delivering climate justice. But our success will not be measured in conference rooms like this one. It will be measured in towns, cities, regions, and states everywhere. The very places that you, as local leaders, serve. Local leaders are often going further and faster than their national governments to tackle the climate crisis. Around the world, leaders like you are reducing fossil fuels, creating green jobs, cleaning up polluted air, and investing in sustainable infrastructure and public transportation systems. And every step you take is making a difference, and I applaud your leadership. But I must also ask you to do more. First, if you haven't already, start planning now for a just transition to a net zero future. Last year in Sharm el-Sheikh, my high-level expert group on net zero provided the blueprint for a credible climate action that aligns with 1.5-degree limits. And I call on local leaders to develop comprehensive and detailed transition plans in line with the group's recommendations. Recommendations against greenwashing or delays that do not make sense in the difficult times we are facing. So these plans must set measurable and verifiable targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across the board. And this includes all emissions for cities and regions, as well as all emissions originating from businesses, supply chains, and the investments of financial institutions. Second, I call on local leaders to demand a seat at the table as national governments develop climate policies and regulations. And that is particularly important as countries prepare to present their next round of national determined contributions in 2025. These contributions must finally be aligned with 1.5-degree limit and must cover all economic activity and greenhouse gas emissions. And they must reflect the finance, technology, support and partnerships required to help your communities adapt and build resilience in the face of a changing climate. The success or failure of these new national climate plans will be realized at the local level, and you must be involved every step of the way. And I'm pleased to see that several members of my advisory group on local and regional governments are here today and are contributing to the discussion with concrete solutions. And third, it's time to throw your full political support behind the renewables revolution. Fossil fuels represent the past, renewables represent the future, and I'm fully aware of the political, financial, and regulatory roadblocks standing in your way. But the writing is on the wall. The world needs to commit to a clear time frame to phase out fossil fuels aligned with 1.5 degrees. And the COP28 global stockade must also result in commitment that will lead to tripling renewables, doubling energy efficiency, and bringing clean energy to all by 2030. And as local leaders, you can lead the way by investing in public transportation, infrastructure fueled by renewables, and prioritizing clean air and jobs in the green economy. Ending climate chaos and the multiple injustices that fuel it requires all hands on deck. Your citizens are counting on your leadership, so am I. Let's stand as one and work as one to protect all communities from the climate crisis and spur the renewable, sustainable and equitable future people and planet deserve, and I thank you.
Please welcome to the stage His Excellency Xi Jinping, Special Envoy for Climate Change for the People's Republic of China.
Distinguished Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, good afternoon. I have attended the COP conference for 16 consecutive years. I have seen familiar faces and colleagues. We have experienced the progress of climate change, and we have observed that the climate challenge has already becoming threatening issues. climate change are significant scenarios and realities faced by the entire humankind. And climate change has become a common consensus in the global community. So the international agreement on climate change has promoted the actions in climate change. The Paris Agreement is focusing on low carbon and green transformation. The entire world is now ushering in an era of industrial transformation and technology revolution. Due to geopolitical issues and the different paces of development among different countries, it's very hard to coordinate in the climate issues. On the basis of securing food security and climate change, we need to implement our commitment to climate action and focus on high-quality economic recovery. So China is actively implementing our national strategy in handling climate change, and we have established a policy framework of carbon neutrality and carbon peaking, as well as 1+N policy system to increase energy efficiency, reducing carbon emission, and also establishing market mechanisms to adapt to climate change and promoting the development in society and also in economy to build a harmonious relationship between people and nature. The carbon emission intensity in China decreased significantly, and the new energy vehicle production and sales volume ranks #1 for 8 consecutive years, and half of the new energy vehicles are now running on the road in China. And historically, the new renewables installation surpassed that of coal-fired plants. The forest resource growth is also ranking #1 in China. And now, we have the largest carbon market in the world. By 2023, October 30th, the carbon trading volume. The carbon trading volume is 423 million tons. Effective of carbon emission capacity for industries. We are also adapting to climate change. Our capacity of adaptation is also increasing. The low carbon and green awareness in the society continue to rise, and we are actively participating in global governance in climate change, and we're also participating in South-South collaboration to establish a fair and reasonable global governance system. We're contributing Chinese wisdom and actions to that effort, and we are also supporting local governments and the regions to handling climate change. And different provinces and cities in China are now establishing low-carbon industrial parks, low-carbon communities, and low-carbon cities. And they are also making efforts in climate financing and exploring new ways to reduce emission. Different local governments are catering to their local realities to implement climate actions. They are innovating in their strategic targets, realization pathways, policy mechanisms, and international collaboration. Nationwide, there are lots of vivid carbon initiatives, and we have accumulated experience in building low-carbon cities. These efforts will speed up China's low-carbon and green transformation and realizing high-quality development. Distinguished guests, climate change issue is a common challenge faced by all countries. It's also an opportunity where different countries can work together in promoting green development. That is why China has established a joint working group in combating climate change, and we have 4 focus areas in combating climate change. China is also piloting in industrial parks. We are also willing to work with developing countries in combating climate change and implement the South-South collaboration initiative launched by President Xi Jinping. And we are also working very hard to work with these developing countries and the local regions on climate change adaptation and mitigation actions. We hope that different governments can work together, establish connections, and establish their own and local carbon market. And we are also looking forward to collaboration among different regions, to learn from each other, and also launch collaborations to implement Paris Agreement and promote the development of global green development.
I hope that cities and local governments can act together to ensure that we can put on a great effort to ensure Paris can be implemented. Thank you very much, everyone.
Maroš Šefčovič, Executive Vice President of the European Commission.
I was very pleased to announce it together with Dr. Sultan Al Jaber and Michael Bloomberg in New York in September. And it was only natural for me to be here today with you in Dubai. Among many other reasons, because it gives me an opportunity to thank you, mayors and governors, for your relentless work on tackling climate change. I know that you are first addressee if something goes wrong, if there is a flood, if there is a fire, if there is the weather-related disaster, the people, citizens knocking first at your doors, and you always look for the best way to help them. And therefore, this summit marks a watershed moment, the leaders of cities, states, and regions taking center stage on the COP program for the first time. And indeed, synergies between national and subnational leaders are instrumental in steering our green transition efforts. In the European Union, we recognize the pivotal role of this cooperation in driving local climate action. This is why we have consistently championed multi-level governance cooperation. And the discussion today and tomorrow are a timely opportunity to jointly consider the priorities of subnational leaders from across the world. This will help us to align our strategies and ensure that local actions resonate powerfully with our overarching goals under the Paris Agreement. Cities and regions are crucial in driving the transition to a sustainable future. Your engagement, your services, and your resources have a significant influence on this transformative journey. Because while progressing on climate ambition at the global level remains necessary, it is not sufficient by itself. We need this transformation to happen also at the subnational level. And for this reason, on behalf of the European Commission, I would like to express our wholehearted support for the principles and objectives outlined in the declaration of the Coalition for the High Ambition Multi-Level Partnership, CHAMP. And I'm pleased to announce that I will issue a formal statement in this regard as well. And I will do it gladly because we share the objectives of promoting collaborative climate action, coordinated between national and subnational governments to help achieve emissions reduction, build resilience and mitigate severe climate impacts. Indeed, we need to fully harness the potential of multi-level governance in developing, advocating and implementing climate action. Success stories like the Global Covenant of Mayors illustrate making resources available to cities and local governments. The European Union has taken significant steps to provide both technical assistance and direct funding. Just a few examples. Since 2009, we have invested 138 million euros in Global Covenant of Mayors. And our Horizon Europe funding program has 5 EU missions, which play an important role in supporting cities with technical assistance and leveraging the necessary finance. This includes the cities mission with some 360 million euros to deliver at least 100 climate-neutral and smart European cities. And finally, I also would like to underline the international scale of our cooperation. Our European Fund for Sustainable Development prioritizes sustainable cities. 2 programs with a total of 6 billion euros in financial guarantees will provide affordable long-term financing for infrastructure-focused operations to support cities in Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, and Asia-Pacific region. Ladies and gentlemen, so as you see, the European Union contributes very concretely to support local climate action, and I'm very happy that we have a chance already at the beginning of COP28 to acknowledge the key role cities, states, and regions play in the green transition, and for that, I wholeheartedly thank you.
Our local climate action includes making London net zero by 2030, planting nearly 500,000 trees, and creating the world's largest clean air zone monitored by more than 300 air quality sensors. We must continue to be the doers, not climate delayers taking.
Welcome to the stage Mayor Abby Benet of Makati, Philippines, Mayor Claudia Lopez of Bogota, Colombia, and Governor Yuriko Koike of Tokyo, Japan, for a conversation with Antha Williams, head of the Environment Program at Bloomberg Philanthropies.
About what you feel like has been the most innovative, impactful policy or program that you've been able to promote as part of that plan.
Thank you very much. But before that, please let us appreciate and thank all the decisions has made to put the local, Climate Action Summit as a part of COP28. So I'd like to thank very much, because we are so close to citizens, and we have to take all the responsibility when anything happens. So this is a really thoughtful and meaningful decision to put this local action summit or climate summit as part of COP28. Thank you very much once again. Now, of course, climate change is in a state of crisis. This is what we are sharing, the common feeling and common decision. And to fulfill its responsibility as one of the world's largest cities with 14 million people, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government is pursuing the 1.5 degrees target and accelerating its action to realize a 2030 halving carbon emissions by 2030 and a 2050 zero-emission Tokyo. Specifically, we will accelerate the shift toward renewable energy as a major energy source, as 70% of CO2 emissions comes from buildings. We have so many tall buildings and single-family houses here and there. And so that TMG will start to mandate the installation of solar power generation equipment on houses and on new houses and other buildings, thereby tripling the city's renewable energy capacity by 2030. I brought a very sample of samples. This is a new solar power, not a panel. It's just a film or sheet, and it's very thin and light, and moreover, it's flexible so that you can install on the wall of the buildings easily. So in central Tokyo, construction will begin on the world's first high-rise building that will use its wall surfaces to realize mega solar power generation. And Tokyo will become a futuristic city where every area is capable of generating electricity. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government will work with H2 Global, an internationally known institution with one of the most developed support instruments for global hydrogen today, to promote efforts to establish a hydrogen exchange in Tokyo. This is very new. Yes. And in addition, we will promote efforts to form alliances with overseas cities and other entities like Masdar or Mubadala to ensure the supply of hydrogen. And furthermore, in order to increase the demand for hydrogen, the TMG will take the lead in using it and encourage the private sector to do the same. For example, more than 100 fuel cell buses are already used as a means of daily transportation. So, to make the city be sustainable with high tech, we just made a new word, an acronym of sustainability and high tech, two together become sushi. So we would like to share the common, to share the common experience and share those solutions amongst the cities. We will close to our target. For instance, for the TMG, we are halving by 2030 the CO2 emissions, and 2050 zero emission.
This local leaders to take on and replicate.
Well, thank you so much. And again, I want to express also our gratitude for the organizers of this historic conference of local governments in the COP. I think finishing my 4-year term in Bogota, Colombia, and Latin America, and jobs, those are the most important human tools to base social justice. Without social justice, there won't be environmental justice. People under hunger, under poverty, that's one thing, the order matters. The second thing I think I can share is that in the urban planning, organizing and planning cities around care, around the protection of the ecological structure of our cities, water provision, food security, and decarbonized urban mobility are the 5 urban most important issues to achieve, again, both social justice and environmental justice. And the third thing that I want to share is that organizing a city around care is building our cities to be safe for girls and women, to relieve women from unpaid domestic and care work. Women under poverty, women who cannot finish school, get economic autonomy, get freedom, get political representation. They won't be able actually to move forward with their families. Rather, in the opposite direction, it will build cities that help women to have education and economic autonomy, they will move on with their families instead of their families moving upon or against the woman's inclusion. So that's what caring means, reliving. And I'm very proud to be the first city in Latin America who used the social infrastructure of the city to recognize, redistribute, and reduce the overburden of unpaid care work from women into offering services. The third thing is the youth people. Both women and youth are the driving forces for change in the 21st century. But those youth people, the present and future generations, they need the education and the skills and the green economy for have the green jobs, the digital jobs, the caring jobs that they're actually looking for. Otherwise, there will be a source of frustration if they don't achieve that. And let me summarize this also with the mobility thing. Then that's the other energy, the one we usually mention in these sort of conferences, right? Is the replaceable, the decarbonization of public transportation. So coming out, I think all mayors, we have to lead and be bold in coming out and leaving aside, living in the past, the great avenues of the 21st century, the public spaces that were mainly devoted for fossil fuel cars, and instead organizing our cities not in great avenues, but in green corridors that actually the ecological structure, provide a space for pedestrians, for bikes, for electric transportation. Don't be afraid to redistribute public space for safer, cleaner modes of transportation in our cities if we want to achieve both social justice and also a non-fossil fuel economy and mobility. And finally, there is an order. There are many things to move on. We, the local governments, we are the proximate governments to our people. People can knock to our doors, not send letters of emails. They can knock to our doors and hold us responsible for things. So if we want to improve and scale up the solutions that we have in our cities to save the planet, then we need socially responsible, politically accountable, and fiscally capable local governments. Look at centralization of power and solutions is the recipe for failure. Decentralization with social responsibility, with political accountability and fiscal capability, that's the recipe for success. Caring for people so that we have citizens that can care for our democracies and democracies that can care for our planet. That's the proper order. That's the order we're building in our cities, whether it's Freetown or Paris or Bogota or Accra or Buenos Aires or Mendoza or Barranquilla. Count on us. And finally, one strong recommendation. This summit started with a bold idea, the lost and the damaged fund, so that those responsible for the problem can support those who are suffering the consequences. I encourage here, some minutes ago, the president of the World Bank, who is from India, spoke here. The president from the Inter-American Development Bank is from Brazil and spoke here. The president from CAF, Green Bank from Latin America, spoke here. You want us, the local governments, to be the driving force? Please set up the rules and the conditions so that the money and the funds from all development banks from the world can come directly to the local governments, to the subnational governments, without red tape, without bureaucratic procedures, and without get trapped in the political polarization and censorship from the national governments to the local governments. We are part of the solution. Put out the money that we have the solutions to scale up. Thank you.
Great. Wonderful, Mayor. Thank you so much. That's a lot of support for that in the room, and that's a perfect segue to what I wanted to ask you about Mayor Binay, who joins us from Makati, Philippines. You've been a real leader in making the case for the idea and the recommendations that multilateral development banks need to do their work differently. So what is your, building on what we've just heard from the mayor of Bogota, what is your top recommendation for how banks need to think differently about urban climate action?
So before I answer your question, Anta, I would just like to highlight and emphasize. I have attended several panels through the years, and this is the first panel, an all-female panel, that is just, we are opening this summit by an all-female panel. This is not just saying that cities are the future, women are the future as well. It can be very intimidating when you're surrounded by all men in one room and they're taller and bigger. But I'm very, very happy that I'm surrounded by all women. Can I just say that, continuing with the point earlier by Mayor Claudia, the MDBs should focus on cities. They should be banks for cities. Number one, consider funding smaller projects. MDBs they want big projects, but big projects mean bigger financial risk, especially for the banks. If you fund smaller projects by cities that are viable, that have the technical support, then the risk is lower and you end up helping these small cities to fund their climate action plan. Number two, that MDBs should seriously consider is that the financing is in local currency. When the foreign currency, when you take out a loan in US dollars, and I'm from the Philippines, last few years ago, the dollar was at 48, now it's at 56. So imagine if you took out a loan and the amount of money that you still have to pay that you didn't consider when you took out the loan is so much bigger through the years. So I think the MDBs should really recognize, I know it is a dream. Let us not be fooled by the fact that this is COP28. And up to today, the Philippines and other countries have not been able to get the funding they need on a national level. And now we're coming in on a city level. Do we actually really think that the cities will get the same amount or the same or enough access to this funding? And I hope this COP, under the leadership of Dr. Sultan, we will make that happen. Under the leadership and cooperation of the UN, the Bloomberg Philanthropies, and COP28.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I'd like to ask our panelists to stand for a round of applause. Thank you so much for your leadership, for everything you're doing, and to all of you. Thank you so much.
Freetown has experienced significant deforestation, from increased temperatures due to the loss of shade cover to the risks and the experience of water shortages. Deforestation has had and continues to have a negative impact, and it's something that we really have to address. Glad to see we are now addressing it.
Please welcome to the stage Laurence Tubiana, CEO of the European Climate Foundation, France's climate change ambassador and special representative for COP21 and COP22 UN high-level champion for climate action, His Excellency Abdullah Mohamed Al-Basti, Secretary General of the Executive Council of Dubai, Mayor Eduardo Paes of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and Mayor Anne Hidalgo of Paris, France, in conversation with Francine Lacqua, anchor and editor-at-large for Bloomberg TV. Please
I need to be up. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us. A lot has to be said from what has been achieved since Paris in 2015. So thank you all for being on this panel. Your Excellency, let me start with you. You've just announced, of course, this new climate action plan. What are you most excited about, and how will it define the way forward?
First of all, thank you for hosting me here, and thank you for being with us here in Dubai. Several mitigation plans have been. Is this working?
I think we can hear you. I hope we can hear you.
Yeah. We're not.
Yeah.
Have been implemented in Dubai. One of which is the carbon abatement strategy, where we aim to reduce the carbon emission by 50% by 2030, targeting main sectors like energy, transportation, water, waste. In addition, the circular economy also is another strategic initiative for us, where we have a quick wins. For example, we were encouraging the use of filtered water to reduce plastic, segregating at site to minimize waste, and encourage recycling locally. Recently, we've announced the new policy to ban single use of plastic, starting from January 2024. A few days ago, Emirates also has become Emirates Airlines has become the first world airline that operate a 380 flight using 100% sustainable aviation fuel, which is a breakthrough, and that can reduce carbon emission by up to 85 when compared to conventional fuel jets. Finally, I think in Dubai, as the other cities, we have a long and short-term plan. We have a target. We committed to invest in this plan. We need to work together. I mean, putting everyone in one room. I mean, private sectors, public sectors, community, educational institutions. I mean, to share the same vision and agree in the coming years. I think that's what we have, and we do believe also, as I mentioned maybe before the panel, working in our kids' awareness. I mean, raising the awareness of kids, very critical to the coming 10 to 20 years. They will take the lead. They will be in charge in these things. So we have to work from the beginning of their life to increase their awareness and issues that related to the climate change and environment.
Thank you so much, and thank you also, of course, to being host. Mayor Hidalgo, I mean, sometimes we're frustrated with progress on how it's slow, but if we cast ourselves back, since the Climate Summit for Local Leaders in 2015, which you hosted in Paris, at the time, 100 local and regional governments had committed to these ambitious 2030 targets. Today, more than 1,000 of them. So what do you credit that success to?
Well, first of all, allow me to thank the Secretary General of the United Nations and the President of the COP28, Dr. Sultan, and Mike Bloomberg, because we need this commitment at this level. We need that. And today, I know that we all know the rules and the objectives that what the Paris Agreement stands for. And it is necessary to complete it with a new financial mechanism. And on that matter, what happened yesterday night with the adoption of the Loss and Damage Fund is a very, very good news for climate justice and for also the local leaders, because we need it. But the question now for me is how do we accelerate and with who? Cities take action. We know that, and my sisters, mayors, before your fantastic, fantastic women and leader said this before. And since 2015, and we do a lot. We did a lot. We have worked. We transformed ourselves. Just look at the result of all the cities of the C40 network. In Paris, for example, we've reduced our carbon footprint by 36% in 20 years. And we continue, but how? In Paris, for example, we accelerate to phase out of fossil fuels by reducing our needs, of course, thanks to energy sobriety. We aim also for 100% renewable energies by developing in Paris also new facilities such as solar, geothermal, heat recovery also. We are launching a massive environmental conversion of our building because we are a very old cities and it is simply crucial to launch this program. And we will go also on reducing greenhouse gases emission and air pollution. Less car means less pollution. It's very simple. If you have come recently in Paris, you know that. And it's a real revolution, but a very peaceful revolution, because the revolution we want is very peaceful. The environmental issues and the social issues are managing together. And it is also problem in our democracies. Without cities, Paris Agreement achievement is impossible. It's true. We need to say that. That is why they must be part of the global climate governance. Also in Europe. Europe is very committed, thanks to the commissioner before, is very committed in the climate change and to help the government, and it's very committed. But today, we don't know tomorrow what happened. And in Europe, we can strongly support the European values and institutions. In a time when democracy is in danger and our cities are at the forefront against populism. And let me just tell you what is doing today the Spanish presidency in Europe. She's working alongside with the city of Barcelona. I know that my colleague from Barcelona is here in this room, but also with Milan and Paris on creating a city committee, because we need to be part of the European governance. I think it's very important if we want to achieve the Paris Agreement target, we need to have the cities inside the room. What happened this morning and today with the delegation of 12 mayors at the opening of the COP is a major step. And I want one more thanks the presidency of the COP28 and Mike Bloomberg. And I can say to all my colleagues, because I think we share that, from now on, let's make sure mayors remain in the room. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor. Laurence, in 2015, you were really one of the key instrumental architects of the Paris Agreement. What do you think is needed now to go forward with the ambitions?
I can tell that today, in this first time summit of local authorities, local action, for me, it's really an extraordinary achievement, because when we started Paris, we knew that we have to rely, of course, on government, but climate action is everywhere, across the board. And the idea is that you have to get to the energy and agency of citizens, so you have to in a way, embark not only the government and the representative, but people themselves. And that's why the local authorities, the local region, that was so important, and that the non-state actors are part of the Paris Agreement for the first time. They were recognized as actors, and Anne gathers them. We could not put everybody at the same place, but in the Mairie de Paris, you have them with a wonderful photo I remember very well. And so today, I think it's a natural and very welcome evolution of Paris Agreement. I'm telling every day, an agreement is not set in stone. It's a living organism. And this living organism now has to include more people, more actors, in a much more stronger way. In Paris, there were still separate bodies. The government on one side, the non-state actors on the other side. I think that the moment we change that. And that's why I'm so happy to be here, to have seen Michael Bloomberg and the president of the COP, together with Antonio Guterres, with the same line saying, we have to move this forward. And what? Because what? When when Paris Agreement was set, we knew that I am in this climate thing since 30 years almost, which is really too long. But you see that you will have and face highs and lows in national politics. That's evident. So there, the local authorities, the citizen, are the force that can keep the things going. Just remember when President Trump decided to withdraw from Paris Agreement, that was a wonderful relief to see that states, regions, cities say, no, we are still in. It was a wonderful innovation in governance to say, no, even if the federal government can decide, we don't go in the same line. We want to pursue the Paris objective. And this is saving the multilateral process in reality. The diplomacy of cities and regions, that's super important. So in my view, at that stage, what is needed, and that's why I really recognize this wonderful initiative of Trump, and a beautiful name, by the way, very, very sort of funny, but light, but at the same time energetic name, that we have to have now for the next round. And we are in a very crucial moment. The global stocktake, we look what we have done and we look forward now. And by COP30, we'll have to design the travel, to design the roadmap, to deliver the objective of Paris even more, because we know we are lagging behind. So that's why we need the citizens, the region, together with the government, to be accountable of this promise made in Paris. And that's why I think in this new cycle, and I see now a number of governments are now ready to come back with their cities and region and citizens to commit together, and in a way to be accountable to each other. That's why then the national policies has to offer the space, the support for the local authorities, including on finance, including on governance, including on the capacity to decide and really implement the roadmaps that the citizen would have decided. And that's my final word. You cannot do that enormous transformation that we are aiming at without citizens deciding and shaping the future. You cannot have top-down decision. It will not work. You will have resistance, backlash. And why? Because there is an element, and Claudia said that very well earlier, you need the equality element embedded in the climate action. If not, we'll never get there. So that's why I'm relying on all of you to do that, and that's why I'm very happy today.
Thank you so much. Mayor Pais, so you're president of the FNP, which is the largest network of mayors in Brazil. So how do you work with the federal government, and also how do you get ready for COP30, which will be in Brazil?
I mean, first, it's an amazing honor to be here. I just want to say, Claudia, that I felt completely happy and proud to be, surrounded by women mayors. So it's women empowered a lot. So it's a great honor. Let me say, I mean, I always, when I'm in a meeting like that, I cannot forget when we were in Paris 8 years ago. And this shows a little bit. I was chair of C40. Hidalgo was the mayor, that was still the mayor, but was the mayor by that time, hosting us in Paris. And I cannot forget to say that we are talking about something that happened 8 years ago. And by the time there was a request by the organizations of mayors, C40s was one of these organizations, that we should be part formally of COP, of the COPs that were delivered right after that. And I mean, every time I see national governments talking about climate change, they say, this is urgent. We need to deliver it now. So I think I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful to be here speaking in the official zone of COP28, but I think it took too long. I mean, we're talking about 8 years. So the main issue here, and I'm going to get to the FNP, the networks of Brazilian mayors, but we need to understand that the main issue that we're discussing, how can we mayors need money. We need the money to get things done. When you look at Brazil, which is maybe the country that's suffering most from climate change, we need money now for adaptation. We cannot wait another 8 years that this institution or the head of states that are present here, the MTB leaders that are here, chairmen that are here, they need to understand that we need that to move fast and get to the money, to the hands of the mayors and local government. So my impression when I look at institutions like the networks of Mayor of Brazil is that we are kind of giving a good example when we talk about President Lula. And just to finish here my thoughts, I think, and I always say that to Hidalgo, we have an amazing opportunity with President Lula becoming G20 president today. I mean, President Lula is committed to sustainability, is committed to climate change, and has a way, that's how he worked in his last 2 terms as president of Brazil. I was mayor too. He always found a way to help to implement public policies, giving money to local governments, understanding that we are much more capable of delivering things than national government. So let's not wait another 8 years. Probably me and Hidalgo will not be mayors in 8 years. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? But it will take too long. I don't know what's going to happen, be happening until then.
Well, thank you so much for a robust conversation. So onwards. Is that the word of advice?
Yes.
Onwards.
Run.
Thank you, merci.
Addressing the global impacts of climate change means addressing the local impacts of our cities, states, and communities. To reduce the amount of air pollution caused by vehicle emissions in Jakarta, local climate action increased access to public transport through the Jaklingko card, a transport integration program. This action has promoted public transportation by reducing the cost of travel to 10% of one's income from 30%. To reach ambitious climate goals, California aims to reach net zero emissions by 2045. Local climate action mandates that 100% of new cars and light trucks sold in the state be zero-emission vehicles by 2035. This action meant that in the first quarter of 2023, over 20% of vehicles sold in California were zero-emission, up from 6.8% in 2019. It has also inspired 17 other U.S. states to commit to similar vehicle regulations. And to limit the effects of coal burning on Warsaw's air quality, local climate action called for an amendment to the city's anti-smog resolution, limiting the use of coal for domestic heating. This action will cut CO2 emissions by an estimated 3.6 megatons per year, which is equivalent to 775,000 cars being taken off the roads. These communities and more are committed to addressing the global issue of climate change by first addressing the local issue of climate change.